Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Giri Devanur. Giri Devanur is the CEO and founder of ReAlpha, a real estate investment firm based in Columbus, Ohio, focused on democratizing the $1.2 trillion short-term rental market. Originally from India, Giri led Ameri 100 Inc. to a successful IPO on NASDAQ, scaling the company to $50 million in revenue in just 4 years. He was awarded the 2017 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year for his achievements. Giri holds a master's in technology management from Columbia University and has completed executive programs at Harvard Law School and MIT. A mentor at Columbia University since 2015, he is also an author and blogger with contributions featured in Forbes. His book, Nothing to NASDAQ, chronicles his journey from arriving in America with just $65 to leading a NASDAQ IPO. Giri hosts the How to Who podcast, interviewing experts across various fields. With 25 years of entrepreneurial experience, he has founded multiple companies, including iVega Corporation and WinHire Inc., focusing on technology and professional services. Well, good afternoon, Giri. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Brian. How are you?
Amazing. Thank you for making the time. And you're actually on the East Coast here, New Jersey. I'm in Kansas City. I know we're only an hour behind, but gosh, it's getting pretty darn late for you out there. So again, I really appreciate the time, Giri. And Giri, let's jump into your first question here. Your journey from India to leading a successful IPO on NASDAQ is truly inspiring. Can you share some key moments from your book, Nothing to NASDAQ, that highlight the challenges and triumphs you faced along the way?
So, Brian, I've been a tech entrepreneur, multiple ventures, etc. So, once you are an entrepreneur, you are an entrepreneur, right? So I launched with my brother, Ameri 100, which was a SAP kind of consulting company. And that was in 2013. And we set a goal to get it listed on NASDAQ in 7 years. But, we achieved that goal in under 4 years. So we scaled the business from 0 to 50 million in revenue and then got it listed on NASDAQ towards the end of 2017. And after we rang the bell, I got out and, I started investing in other companies, etc. The journey to, get onto the NASDAQ podium, obviously, was not rosy. I grew up in a small town by the name Chikmagalur in India. So I started my journey there and I did my undergrad in computer engineering in India. Then I came to US in 1991 with hardly any money. And then, that's the journey. And I've been fortunate and lucky to achieve whatever I set out as the goal.
It's an amazing story. But, I can tell the way you explained that you had a vision and you had some goals and you set those. And sometimes you beat those you met or you beat the expectations. But I really appreciate that. It is truly inspiring, as I had mentioned earlier. So thank you. And Giri, as the CEO and founder of ReAlpha, you're bringing the latest tech to the real estate industry. What motivated you to enter this space, and how does ReAlpha plan to transform the real estate investment landscape, especially with ReAlpha's 0% commission platform, Player?
Good question, Brian. After, getting that first company to NASDAQ, as I mentioned, we did it in our 4. And then I was looking for my next big thing. And I was dabbling around a variety of technologies and stuff like that. I figured out that real estate as an industry, this is the world's largest asset class, right? In that industry, the adoption of technology has been probably very slow. So when I realized that, I was thinking about what to do. And then one day, one of my friends towards the end of 2020 called me asking, she's going to make a purchase of a property and so on and so forth. And that led me to, dig into the entire end-to-end process of buying a property, selling a property, etc. That is the origin of ReAlpha. So we launched ReAlpha on the November 1st of 2020 with the vision of bringing these technologies into real estate vertical. And we started dabbling with AI and so on. I mean, today, everybody talks about AI as if it is new. When I was doing my undergrad back in 1990, almost 34 years back, my subject elective was artificial intelligence. And lo and behold, all the concepts that we studied then are even in, implementation mode even today. So we implemented in ReAlpha different levels of AI, etc. And then we were, initially debating about democratizing investments into the Airbnb kind of properties. So, we went ahead and bought, like a bunch of properties and experimented our own algorithms and so on. Finally, we wanted to really scale it to $1.5 billion kind of purchasing. But, we had made one, miscalculation. That was, we assumed that the interest rates will be in the 3.5%, maybe 4% kind of horizon. We did not expect the interest rates to, shoot up the way it went up till late last year, almost towards 8% kind of. So that 100% interest rate, we were lucky enough in the beginning itself, when it crossed 4, I realized that, hey, our CFO at that time, Mike, and I debated that, it's not going to look good. And we decided to sell all our properties over the next few months. And then, we decided to become a asset light company and focused on continuing building our AI platform. And then early last year, around March, we applied to the SEC and, got the approval on October 1st of last year. And October 23rd, we got it listed on NASDAQ. That is the journey so far. And then, you asked me about zero fee brokerage, etc. The AI agent that we have built is named Claire, commissionless AI for real estate. By the way, we are now listed on NASDAQ. We got listed on October 23rd last year. Our ticker on NASDAQ is AIRE. So this is, Claire is commissionless AIRE. And we were, again, surprised that the NAR lawsuit settlement that happened, regulatory shift, this is one of the massive disruptions that have happened in the real estate industry in a very, very long time. Till last year, it used to be at least $100 billion real estate brokerage was paid out. And suddenly, on August 17th, that settlement got completed. And, now if you want to buy a property, you need to sign your own brokerage agreement with a broker. And then, you need to agree on what kind of fee you have to pay. Earlier, it used to be seller who would pay 6%, and 3 and 3 used to get split between buy-side real estate agent and sell-side real estate agent. That is history now. So, you need to find your own broker and so on. So what we did was, like every other industry that has happened, if we go back in time in the stock brokerage industry, right? Companies used to charge between 1.25% to 1.5%, even sometimes 2% for doing a trade. And then Schwab came in with a $49 a trade kind of mechanism, followed very quickly by E-Trade and Scott Trade and eventually Robinhood, which brought it down to 0% commission. The same thing has happened in other industries like, travel agencies as well as advertising and so on and so forth. When you look at all these industries, eventually the brokerage goes down to 0. So what we thought, Brian, was we launched Claire as a platform, AI platform for buying a home or selling a home end to end. We made it for the buyers 0% commission from a brokerage perspective. So we launched our platform a few weeks back. We are testing it in Florida, and we dropped our super app, real estate super app, just 2 days back. We are on to something, really great, because this solution that we have built is going to change the way people buy and sell homes. The advantage of the platform that we have built, this can be truly global, because I was in Japan, Singapore, Dubai, and India last month. What I noticed was in each of those markets, everything the same, right? Except the data pipe and some regulatory issues. So we have a global opportunity in the future to, go after. So now we are really excited about, the platform that we have built in ReAlpha and launched it very recently.
That's amazing. We've seen a lot of disruption in the last decade. You look at some of the big things like Uber and Lyft and Airbnb, but we're taking it to a whole new level now. And you just outlined some of that, what you're doing with AI. And I think, again, we're giving power back to the people. I talk about my platform here a little bit. We're built on blockchain. We're Web3 actually. And I believe in DeFi and believing in giving power back to the people. And in my opinion, that's what you're doing here. And I think that's amazing what you're doing as far as disruption. So thank you for that. And Giri, as a mentor at Columbia University and host of the How to Who podcast, you're deeply involved in sharing knowledge and fostering talent. What are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned from mentoring and podcasting?
That's a loaded question, Brian. See, being a mentor means actually, technically, you are a student, right? Learning never ends. You have to constantly learn every day. The massive expansion of the knowledge that is happening is just mind-numbing. You and I are old enough to remember that, the entire newspaper used to be in, 10, 20 pages of physical paper. Today, millions and maybe billions of pages of content is being generated, right? So that makes you humble. Why the technical title may be a mentor. Actually, when you are hanging around with younger people, you tend to learn faster and, it keeps you abreast. So Columbia University mentorship is one of them. Every year I get to, mentor somebody. And then, every time I get, fascinated by the new things that, the next generations are doing. Regarding, my How to Who podcast, my quest on finding the subconscious biases that we have. For example, in life, we are always presented with either an obstacle or an opportunity, right? So our subconscious, when we come across an opportunity or an obstacle, the first thing that comes to our head is, how do I handle this issue, right? And that is where all the challenges of life start. So, I ran a series of podcasts interviewing a bunch of CEOs and, really qualified people who are more knowledgeable than me. And, we realized that instead of asking how, if you ask the who question, then, the revolution begins. And that, led me to, multiple lessons, etc. And then, that kind of, arrived at a solution. Early last month, I was in Nepal and I was giving a TED talk. And that was about finding this answer.
That's just amazing. Love the story. You kind of broke a few things down there for us as far as, mentorship. And I've not really looked at it that way, but as a mentor, you are still a student. You're still learning. And your constant quest to search for knowledge or search for that answer. And the How to Who podcast was a story there as well, as you were looking for an answer and you found what you needed after, I think it was a couple dozen episodes, but I appreciate the share. And Giri, last question of the evening, your entrepreneurial experience spans over 25 years, including founding multiple companies in technology and professional services. How has the entrepreneurial landscape changed over the years, and what new opportunities do you see emerging for startups today?
My first venture, I started way back in 1997 and, we rode the .com wave and, crash and stuff like that, right? So the cycles have remained the same. As they say, right? History doesn't repeat itself, but, it rhymes. So, whatever happened in the previous cycles will continue. So we saw in the good old days, if a company added just a .com and then, that became, 10x, 20x kind of, value multiplication that had happened. I think, today the same is happening with the AI and related industries. So eventually, all these, hype and buzzwords, etc., will cool down and then truly transformative companies will emerge. For example, way back, when the .com, etc. happened, there was a wave of search engines. At one point in time, there were 22 search engines. Google was like 22nd or 23rd search engine, and Google became a multi-trillion-dollar company out of that crash. And then, fast forward, 2008 crash and stuff like that, that led to Airbnb, Uber, and companies like that. Now, with the last, couple of years, the OpenAI, Anthropic, and, many other AI engines, etc. So this cycle will continue. But, with the AI and, latest technologies that are there, whether it is blockchain or any of the crypto, DeFi, et cetera, right? All of them will create a next generation of companies. My statement that I've been making constantly, Brian, is in this wave, at least 100 of the Fortune 500 companies will get displaced, but we don't know which are the new 100 companies that will emerge. We in ReAlpha, we also aspire to be one of those replacing kind of companies. And I believe that, like another 99 other aspirants will get to, become a Fortune 500 company because of the massive tsunami of the change that is coming. The change is coming in multiple ways, right? Whether it is, like marketing, marketing is probably one of the massive changes in terms of content, delivery, distribution, creation, et cetera, right? That is one part. Second is legal. In fact, one of our legal counsel, he was, Nimesh Patel, he was telling me that, legal industry might change, 50%, 50% of the headcount may not be needed, kind of. And then, like finance, massive changes, obviously. And finally, talking about technology itself, I believe that earlier we had, we used to say hypothetically that two of the three being faster, cheaper, better, right? Now, because of the AI and the globalized resource pool that is out there, you can achieve faster, better, cheaper at a 10x, 100x kind of. One other thing, which is fascinating that is happening, Brian, is Mark Anderson had made of Netscape and now, Anderson Horowitz venture fund. Mark had made a statement that one good programmer is equal to 30 average programmers. But, with all this Copilot and, every other coding revolution that is happening, my take is one good professional is equal to 100 average professionals in any field. It is not just limited to technology. So what this will do is we will see the emergence of, really massive disruptive companies changing, full industries themselves. Maybe, 1%, 10% teams will become billion-dollar kind of companies. Maybe eventually a small, maybe 100 people company will become $1 trillion kind of company. So that is the massive shift that we are seeing in the last 2-3 cycles of entrepreneurial disruptions that have happened.
It's amazing. It really is. And, you talked about disruption in Fortune 500 companies that have gone by the wayside. And I think 4 or 5 years ago, there was a statistic on since 2000, the year 2000, I think 52% of the Fortune 500s that were a Fortune 500 in the year 2000 are now gone or bankrupt. And I can see this continuing to happen. And in your case, I hope ReAlpha emerges as one of the leaders. That would be so amazing to be part of something just on this podcast that I got to speak to Giri about ReAlpha. I think that's awesome. And that's what I love to do is get in the middle of all that and share in the stories that come through this podcast. So Giri, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you on today. And I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Thank you very much, Brian. Have a wonderful day. And, this was a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Bye for now.